Hey everybody, what's going on? Hope you are all awesome today. Today is beautiful out. It's like 82 degrees, 7 p.m. I am going to talk today about the SpeedBar. You know, what I've found is most people who do videos on the SpeedBar are a little bit more advanced pilots. And I think that gives us newbies or intermediate pilots kind of the impression that the SpeedBar is only for the top dogs. But realistically, it's for everybody. And I read through my manual on my Spider 3, and it really talked up the SpeedBar. It's a tool, just like any other tool at our disposal. And I remember in training, they kind of shied against it. But of course, they want us to make safe decisions. And as you progress as a pilot, you have to know when you're ready to move on to that next stage. Now, one thing I want to show you quickly is this kind of goofy tank setup I did today. I bought a pretty nice fuel can, but I still spill fuel. It goes in too fast, and the opening for the Parajet Maverick gas tank is, it's only so big. So sometimes I get overspill, and I get tired of that. So here's what I set up today. I got a normal gas can from Rural King, and I've had this pump I've used many times. Basically what I did is I cut the top off and I hot glued this down. This goes down into the tank, and it's basically got a switch on the top up here, and then you got a pump. So you pump just like you're at the gas station. You can fill up your tank. It makes it a little bit easier. Now I know some of you are thinking, Adam, you got to man up. All right, fill your can up just like real men do. Spill gas, smells bad, gets all over everything. That's just how it goes. I like to find a solution to make my life a little bit easier and, less fuel on stuff. Yesterday, I had poured gas and it went down the gas tank, and then I'm like, should I wipe all that up before I fly? I definitely did. You just don't want gas exposed, so hopefully that makes things a little bit easier. Just a matter of hooking it up correctly and making sure that you're ready to go. I want to walk you through what I did. I did a little bit of research to make sure I was doing this correctly. But let's get going on that. Now, we've all seen SpeedBars connected, all right? We know that at the bottom of our harness, there's a Velcro strap here, and you hook the SpeedBar on there, and it sits there nice when you take off and land. Now, we've got both sides connected through some type of paracord. This is going to run through the first pulley all the way up to Parajet's second pulley. Now, I did see on one video, Parajet had a pulley at the end of the arm here, and mine doesn't have that. Mine has the second pulley way back here. The main thing is to make sure it's hanging on this side of the arm. Okay, I made a mistake and I had that on the inside, and it still worked, but there was some resistance there. Now this is what's going to connect to the SpeedBar system on our riser. Okay, and I'll show you how we do that. So basically it's the same setup, both sides. Pretty simple to run. Okay, the main thing is to remember when you do hook up, to hook these up, or if you're not going to use SpeedBar, maybe you could attach these to your netting or something. You just don't want these flapping around. I'm going to take the Spider up. As I'm working on SpeedBar skills, I definitely want to use the safest swing I have, and that is my Spider 3. Now, one of the things that I do religiously is take care in setting up your wing. I remember in class they said a proper wing setup is going to minimize the chance of a failed launch. And it's pretty rare for me to fail a launch nowadays because I take the time to set my wing up. Now let me show you something. One of the concerns I had about setting up SpeedBar was, what happens if I push too hard? What if I don't set it up correctly and I push too hard and that wing's gonna go and it's just gonna nosedive and collapse and I'm gonna crash and burn? I didn't realize how the SpeedBar system actually worked. So let me show you something here. You can't overextend it. So this is our SpeedBar system here. These two pulleys here, and this is our connection that we're going to make to the SpeedBar itself. Now these two pulleys, what happens when you pull on the SpeedBar is these two pulleys come together. And what you'll find is they can only come so close together. So once those two pulleys come together, your speed bar is at its max. So what you're doing is you're trying to set it up in a way that when you're extending that speed bar out, you are at full or pretty close to full extension. Now I've had to adjust this about 3 times to get it correct. If you look at how much additional line I've got left over, I probably had to tie it up about 10 inches in order to get the correct amount of pressure so that when I'm fully extended, the pulleys come together. So I'll show you how we hook this in once we get the motor on the back and we're ready to take off. Now, one thing I have been trying to be better at is a thorough pre-check. We've had a couple of pilot deaths and some people are saying it's equipment issues. So probably what's happening, or what has happened, is they missed something in the pre-flight. So let's go through it quick. I'm going to show you what I check, the order I check it, just to make sure everything's looking good. The first side I start on is the harness side. Okay, I'm just checking my straps, make sure everything's tight, even, it's looking good. My arms, everything's moving the way it should. Now that I have my speed bar system in place, I'll make sure that's in the correct way. There's no tangles. One thing I do notice with my reserve is sometimes these start to get pulled out. So I make sure these are tucked in good. That's definitely one to check. We'll move along to this side. Same thing with the arm. Everything looks good. All of our bolts still have the paint on them. So you're just basically doing a quick check. All my straps are looking good. Everything's working as it should. Do a quick test of the netting. The netting is nice and strong. I've never had an issue with this net. Now when I move to this side, I do have the dual start. So I've got a switch on top to turn that on. Okay, I leave it off until I'm actually ready to get going. But I make sure all my connections are good. I hot glue all my connections to help keep those secure. All my straps are good. There's no frayed wires, anything like that that could be getting pinched. I used a fuel line to cover some of these wires to protect it from the pull start, even though I don't really ever use the pull start. Everything looks good with the primer bulb. Go down to my starter. All these are hot glued on there as well. And it's an industrial hot glue, so it's not going to melt when the engine gets warm. Exhaust is good. Quick shake here. Look at my motor mounts. I look underneath here. You can see I've got a little bit of oil. I cleaned this up the other day because I wanted to see exactly where it's coming from. I probably have a gasket that I need to replace, but everything's looking good. It's strong, solid. Prop is spinning freely. Do a little check of our belt. Belt looks good. Spark plug is in good. And the last thing is my air box. Shake that a little bit, make sure that's not going to come flying off. Everything's looking great for the pre-check. I think we're ready to go. Before I start this up, the last thing I check is my throttle. I'm going to pull that. That's one of the best ways to avoid a throttle out of control when you try to start it. Now I start mine on my stand here, which it's secured down, so I'm not worried about starting it without it being on my back.
Okay, so the point of this morning is to demonstrate the effectiveness of the speed bar. We've got really good conditions this morning. Look at those beautiful clouds. I'll see about getting up there. We'll have to see what the weather's like. Right now it's saying 20-mile-per-hour winds at 1,500 feet. It doesn't look like it because I don't see the clouds moving much, but we'll take a look when we get up there. So we'll grab our first riser. We're just going to clip in the same as normal. I'm going to bring my trims all the way back. Now, here's where we deal with the speed bar. We grab the speed bar, kind of twist it over to the right, make our connection. Just like that. Make sure everything's hanging correctly. Reach over, grab our left side. We're going to do the same thing. Make sure that's on the outside. Lines are all cleared. We're good to go. And that's all we got to do. You know, the rest of our flying is going to be exactly the same as normal. So, okay, it is early in the morning. Double check, everything looks good. Still no wind right now. Should be a pretty simple launch here. All right, let's get up in the air.
Unfortunately, we had another technical malfunction. So unless you're really good at understanding Charlie Brown's teacher, we're going to have to overlay some audio. This is the third time I've attempted to film this. The first time we had a helmet issue, the second time was the 360 camera, and now apparently the mic is still having problems. So I do have some new helmets on order. They are hopefully shipping this week and will be here by the end of the week, so I'm very excited about that. So being new to SpeedBar, of course, the smart thing to do is to gain as much altitude as possible. That's what I'm doing at this point. Trims all the way in, just full throttle. Right now we're at about 1,800 feet. I had to pull out the phone here to take a photo because the sun coming through the clouds was just casting this beautiful image on the horizon. Okay, I'm using my phone to determine ground speed, and we've got a pretty strong headwind. Trims in, we're going about 2 miles per hour. That should give you an idea how strong that headwind is. Trims at neutral, about 6 miles per hour. Let's see what it's like. Trims in neutral, full speed bar. Now that's with trims in neutral position, and we have a 6.5 mile per hour gain. That's pretty impressive. If you need to get somewhere in a hurry or there's a storm coming in, I would definitely see the value in having SpeedBar in that situation. Okay, let's trim all the way out and get a speed comparison. To be honest, this surprised me. I didn't expect to go slower trimmed all the way out than I did trimmed in neutral with full speed bar. That just shows you how effective that speed bar actually is. Now, let's do the ultimate test, trimmed out and full speed bar. I have to say I'm quite pleased with those numbers. Imagine trying to get home on a windy day, going 6 miles per hour. I've had those situations before. Knowing I can throw the speed bar out and trim all the way out and get an additional 10.5 miles per hour, that's pretty impressive. That can make a considerable difference. Now, if you notice, my extension isn't fully extended. I did have to come home, land, readjust a little bit more. I took about 3 inches off, and now we should be just about perfect for that extension. So like I said earlier, that is the biggest hurdle in getting this set up, is getting that line length correct so you have it right at that point where you feel comfortable extending your legs, especially if you had to do it for a long period of time. Now this is where things can get a little bit awkward, is reattaching that speed bar. Taking it off isn't too bad, but putting it back on, it's just a little bit awkward trying to find it with the hand. And mine is a little bit tight still, so that hoop is actually going to stay up. But now that I've readjusted it, it fits exactly how it should. So it's one of those things, the more you practice it, the more you release it, the more you reconnect it, it's just going to get easier and easier. The main thing is to remember when you're done using it to put it back up so that it doesn't drag. Once you land and your wing starts to come down, obviously those lines are going to lose tension and it's going to drag on the ground. So it's not going to be a huge issue, but just something else to worry about when you're coming in for a landing. Man, I tell you what, it's been really fun learning about the speed bar, taking the time to get it set up and dialed in. I can really see this adding a new element to the type of flying that I do. Now we just need some calm conditions so I can see it and get some numbers and kind of sort it out to see how useful it will be and how often I'll use it. The next big step will be adding it to the Sirocco 3. I can really see some positive gains I'm going to get from that. So let's go ahead and land this guy and just talk about the exit procedure, getting ourselves separated from that speed bar. There's really not too much to this process. Once you disconnect your riser, you're going to see the lines are still connected for your speed bar. All we do is disconnect that clip. It goes in at a 90-degree angle, it comes out at a 90-degree angle. Once that clip is disconnected, just make sure you have the line in a place where it's not going to get wrapped around or tangled or snagged. Other than that, there's not much to it. Okay guys, that's going to conclude our flight for today. It's just kind of a quick run up just to kind of show and demonstrate how that speed bar works and the effectiveness. I'm super happy with it. So if you guys have any questions about it, or hookup or tying up or anything like that, let me know. I'm still pretty new into this. I've only flown maybe 4 or 5 times with the speed bar. I will be taking it up on the Sirocco on my next flight so I can see how it responds with that wing. Anyway, so far it's been a great time. You guys have an amazing day. Thanks for tagging along with me today.